Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Prime Minister. Very glad to have you here, because yesterday you were at the Royal Palace. A couple of days ago, you were at the European Summit. And then, of course, you were in Davos, where you met that one and only Donald J. Trump, before we move to that future of Europe. Just between us, how was that?
Well,
you haven't said so much about it.
We agreed not to comment on the meeting, so I should stick to my word. We're not really in a confidential environment, I'm afraid. But it was, of course, a very special experience, as we had asked for the bilateral long beforehand. And our king wanted to speak to Donald Trump about a certain subject. I'll not go into that, but of course, with the Greenland issue, the meeting got another character.
Sure, red line.
Well, I kind of already did before he arrived, and he was well informed of what I said, unfortunately. So he was a little bit dismayed, because he doesn't like to be contradicted. You might have noticed that. And of course, we are Europeans, which means we are very civilized. We're not so direct in speaking, but nevertheless,
you called him a monster.
I did not call him a monster. I said when the old is dying, and if Atlantism would die, I also love America. For us, it was religious at home. We had a portrait of Ronald Reagan and a crucifix. And my father prayed. I always wondered, who is he actually praying to? That's where I'm coming from. I'm the most pro-American guy you can find. But it needs two to tango. In a marriage, you need to love each other. And if Atlantism comes to an end, globalization will go with it, and we will be the victim of it. And of course, if you are threatened with violence within an alliance, if you don't draw the red line there, well, where will you ever draw it? So we nicely, politely delivered the message. This I can say. I will not say how we reacted to it. But I don't think I will get invited to the White House in the very near future. Let's leave it at that.
Okay, that's clear. One of your quotes that was public and went all over the world was, "Being a happy vassal is one thing, being a miserable slave is another," about Europe and that transatlantic relation. How do you feel now, really? Okay.
As a happy vassal or a miserable slave,
yes.
Is that the question? Well, that is the question, of course. Trump is not wrong about everything. We have been freeloading. We have become addicted to the peace dividends. After the 1980s, we all woke up in a period of optimism. We had won the Cold War, and we all thought liberal democracy will engulf the world, and we will wake up at the end of history even, and so no more military expenses are needed, and we became addicted to that logic. The writing was on the wall. When President Obama took the oath, he said, "I'm the very first Pacific president," so the burden shift of America turning its face towards the Pacific, and of course the rival that is China, is a very logical and a very structural thing. This will not change after Trump, but Trump added another layer to it, because Obama already urged us to do what we needed to, and we didn't do it. Trump added another layer to it, and that is, of course, that he is hostile towards the idea of the European Union. When he says he loves Europe, he means that he actually loves 27 countries who would live in vassalry or tends towards slavery. The only economy large enough to stand up to him is the economy of the European Union, and he doesn't like it. Yep. So he added a layer of imperial thinking. Yep. When the war in Ukraine started in 2022, I thought, we're back in the 1980s. We have a tyrant in the east, we have an autocrat, it's tyranny, they're invading a democratic country who wants to belong to the free West. So that totally the fabric of the 1980s, and we will have the leader of the free world who will come to Europe, just like Ronald Reagan in 1987, when he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." It was the first time I saw my father cry. One never forgets these things. We saw the leader of the free world. We stood for values, we stood for democracy, the sovereignty of the people, and the rule of law. And I thought we will see the leader of the free world saying, "Mr. Putin, get out of Ukraine." But we didn't.
The opposite is the case.
Well, we didn't see it. We see an American administration that says between Putin and Zelensky, we don't take sides. So between tyranny, invading democracy, the United States says we don't take sides. Then you know you're not in the 1980s, you're in the 1880s. This is a new age of imperial thinking, with imperial hemispheres.
But what do you
and
do
with
then?
gunboat diplomacy, saying you'll get out of Greenland or I'll send in the troops. It is a very harsh awakening. And that layer, maybe that will disappear after Trump, but we cannot bet on that. It could get better or it could get even worse. So we need to do our homework. We should have woken up and smelled the coffee a long time ago.
That's my question, and let's try to be clear. What's the strategy of Europe then? Because on the one hand, I hear Mr. Hoekstra, many Europeans saying we're on our own for defense and security policy.
Well, we're not yet on our own.
On the other hand, we say, like Mark Rutte said, well, we cannot do without the US. What's the strategy? What's the strategy?
Europe and a strategy. We do talk a lot about a strategy. We're trying to find one. Of course, you can laugh at Europe. We're always very slow. We talk a lot. But the upside of it, we have normal leadership, we are respectful, we have the rule of law, we are predictable, and we could be the North Star of the world that still loves multilateralism and the rules-based economy and respectful trade, and that could be the upside of it. But the downside is, of course, having neglected our military capacities. We have no global military capacities. We're a herbivore. We now realize we're in a world of carnivores, China and the United States. And we're a herbivore, we have no military capacities, we need them, global. That means that we have to integrate Europe at levels that we never considered doing, and that we have to spend a lot more on defense, and that it will take us at least 10 years to get there. In that time, we are dependent on NATO cooperation. And I hope after these 10 years we can continue, but we're not sure, because it will take two to tango. On the other side, we were addicted to cheap fossil oil flowing in from Russia. Because I have some reservations at what the Commissioner said, I must say, about our transition towards sustainability and competitivity. I have reservations, but the truth is we were also addicted to the cheap fossils. And with the war in Ukraine, those also got cut off.
What should we do
China
with
is
that?
profiteering from the war. They're getting the cheap oil, the cheap gas. America is no longer supporting Ukraine. They're selling us the arms. And we are stuck with bills. Crazy energy prices. We have to finance Ukraine. And we're incapable of delivering the military capacity to actually put an end to the conflict. So we're financing a war with no strategy. We're giving money to Ukraine, auto, non-ferro, we don't have the iron, so we give the gold. But to do what exactly? To keep that war going for...
What should we do then exactly concerning energy? Because you say, well, I disagree a bit with what Mr. Hoekstra says.
I don't dare to disagree with the European Commission, but there's always a but. I think that competitivity, productivity, innovation are the three horses. Sustainability and the Green Deal, that's the carriage. And I have the impression that with the cheap fossils coming in from Russia, and depending on the big stick, the guy with the big stick was with the United States, was shown us now that he can use the big stick against us. And that's a pivotal moment. That's a pivotal, this we have never seen. That he no longer does what we want, okay, but that he dares to threaten us with the big stick, it is a pivotal moment. So now we see all our weaknesses, and we must admit, maybe we put the carriage before the three horses and made life extremely complicated with environmental rules that make it impossible to provide in our own energy needs, that make it impossible to mine for rare minerals in Europe. We have no military capacity to provide for them elsewhere. Africa, Chinese are everywhere, South America, Africa, we are nowhere. We made our life extremely hard. We've made dogmatic choices against nuclear energy, which was the stupidity of the century.
Now,
we're still there now. We're trying to come back from, and we're far from there now. I've talked to, I had a negotiation in Davos with the CEO of Engie. If you talk about happy vassalry or slavery,
but
we've put ourselves in a very hard space.
Nuclear energy, some things are irreversible. That's what I wanted to say, but
I think we can hold on to the capacity of the two youngest reactors we have. There's also new technological possibilities like SMR. We have cooperations that we could seek with our neighboring countries, like the Dutch, like the French, who made intelligence energy choices, the French in any case. So there are possibilities to redevelop, but it will take a lot of time. So we made dogmatic choices, but the worst is we are still making dogmatic choices in Europe. There's still not technological neutrality in the policy of Europe. I'll give you an example. I was at the North Sea Summit, you forgot. And between all that stuff, on Monday I was in Hamburg for the North Sea Summit. Of course, to announce we have large ambitions to make offshore energy on sea. And we say this with a straight face. But what you actually hear at the round tables is not so positive. We're unable to finance these projects. And why are we unable to? Because it's very, very expensive. So the wind guys, I had a round table with all the wind guys, they sell wind.
Also in York?
It's a bit like a politician. It's competition, we sell wind. So they say, well, the wind on sea, I say, what do you need? They say, well, if we have the wind on sea, the production is unpredictable, we cannot, there's demand and production, and the gap between it, we will electrolyze on the sea and we will produce green hydrogen. I say, that's brilliant, sounds extremely expensive. They said, what do you need from me? I said, well, you, politician, Europe, you should create a market for green hydrogen. Then I feel like I'm in the Soviet Union. If a politician has to create a market, this sounds like subsidies until eternity. And I asked these people, okay, green hydrogen, but how do you feel about blue and purple hydrogen? They looked at me like a heretic that walked into the church and just spit in the holy water. If you want to jump from where we are to heaven, that sounds like very expensive. And of course, it's impossible. I had in Davos a meeting with the family Mittal, the steel mill in Ghent. And they say, okay, if we have to do all that, and we have to work with very expensive energy, then the economic environment in Europe, we can no longer invest unless if you pay for it.
Yeah.
And we are actually doing that.
And you are already paying with the Flemish government for ArcelorMittal.
We have no choice.
1 billion.
We have no choice because Europe, who should create a level playing field, is opening the door and more and more for state aid. This means in France, very rich country with no debts and a high surplus, that they say if Mr. Mittal goes to the Élysée, Macron says, tout ce qu'il vous faut, tout ce qu'il vous faut, so they get white certificates. So now we also have to pay for the OPEX, for the CAPEX, for the OPEX, for everything. Where does that lead us? So that's still the reality of Europe. We say on the timetable we have flexibility, but the timetable is still there. And the timetable is stricter than the other large economies who don't have all these rules. So are we pragmatic enough to say sustainability is the carriage and it goes together with the horses that are competitivity, innovation and productivity? I'm not convinced.
Okay, you
to say the least, I'm not convinced. This still sounds like l'argent du beurre, le beurre et le sourire de la laitière. You can't have it all.
Yes.
You can't have your cake and eat it too, but in French you get three things. The butter, the money for the butter, and then you get the smile. The smile.
And the smile.
You can't have it all.
You made your point about European level. In your own government, you also have an important decision to make about the wind energy at sea.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Well, that's... we inherited that from the previous government, where we had an environmentalist party in the government, which always, in my view, sorry for saying that recipe for total disaster, who said, nuclear we don't need anymore, that's a technology for ludicrous people, we'll do it all with renewables, and we'll build an energy island, and that we will have an AC-DC connection to the United Kingdom, and it will all work out fine, and we've never been so sure of our energy provision as we are today.
At the same time, you will have a shortage in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, because of all that. Because it's daydreaming. It's hugely expensive.
So
the DC connection on an energy island is totally unfeasible. And the financing of the project is extremely, extremely complicated. And they added all kind of green fantasies like there has to be popular participation in the capital. Why not? Why not? It's impossible. So we'll have to bring it down to realistic proportions. We'll have to tender it, and I hope we will get it done. I'm quite optimistic, but all these projects in Europe for the moment are failing unless they are heavily subsidized. Denmark and Germany announced at the North Sea Summit they're going to do the energy island between the two countries. Hurrah! And then we got off stage, and I asked Mette Fredriksen and Merz, how is it about the financing? And they both looked at me, as we say in our language, like a farmer with a toothache.
That's clear.
That tells me enough.
Yes.
That tells me enough. You cannot be competitive on a subsidized economy. You cannot be competitive if the artery of your economy, your energy, has to be so heavily subsidized, because this can only be competitive if you would charge for emissions double or triple what we're charging today. Then this all becomes competitive, but then let's be very realistic, ladies and gentlemen, the decarbonization of Europe will be synonym of the deindustrialization of Europe, and it's already happening. The petrochemical industry is no longer investing. They're leaving us. And even the ones who are going to bring sustainable production, like Fioneo say, very nice environment to create in Europe, see you later, going to China.
Yeah, I want to elaborate that point a bit, because 1 year ago, when European leaders gathered in Antwerp for the clean industrial deal, you said we must absolutely avoid Europe becoming a museum of industrial history. Now,
I think Johan Thijs said exactly the same thing. 1
year further, you will have a next summit in a couple of weeks, in 2 weeks' time, Antwerp and Antwerp-Bruges.
The 11th of February, well, exactly.
It's getting worse.
Europe is slow, but I think we are at a pivotal moment. We're at a crossroads. There is a very high awareness of what needs to be done in Europe, and that awareness is growing. The Antwerp Summit will be a very crucial moment. I've seen it. It started as a cry for help from the petrochemical sector. It became last year a very broad industry forum with all European sectors at high level represented. It will be an even more impressive gathering this year. And I've done my homework. I visited all sectors, talked to everybody in my own country, but also the neighboring countries, pleading them to say, come to Antwerp. I invited Merz, I invited Macron. Not sure if they will come, but they were interested. Let's hope they are there. And I pleaded to the industry to do one thing: don't come with 300 measures for every sector. Give us your 10 commandments. What is preventing you to be competitive in Europe today? The next day, to 12th of February, I invited every European leader to come to Aldenbiesen, and Ursula von der Leyen responded. She convoked an informal summit with one topic on the agenda: competitivity. And I think it's not a nice thing to say with the commissioner in the room, and I already said some very unnice things towards your competence. I'm sorry, and this is even less nice. I think there needs to be a crackdown. Crackdown is very hard, but it's because my English is not so good. A crackdown from the Council towards the Commission saying, these are your priorities. You cannot have it all. You cannot have the butter, the money for the butter, and our smile. Top priorities, please. And the top priority should be that we should integrate our markets. We should integrate our markets. We are waging a trade war on ourselves. We're complaining about Trump. Let's stop moaning about Trump.
Okay,
he'll surprise us every day. Integrate our markets for goods and services.
That will take years.
Also for energy. No, it doesn't have to take years. Draghi, Letta, they already wrote it. It's all there. The non-tariff barriers for goods in Europe between the member states is 44%, according to the IMF. Services, 110%. There are quick wins. The energy market, invest in the grid, the capital market, the union of the banks at a European level. Maybe not with 27, but allow us functional integration. Maybe the core Europe could go forward faster. Maybe the Benelux could go forward faster. Maybe we could do it. It's all possible. If we don't do it, I know what will happen. I know what will happen. We will lose. So it has to happen now. And I think it is possible. And I don't think it has to take forever. If we leave Aldenbiesen with these top priorities and we say to the Commission, in March you present us a roadmap to get to deliverables in 2026, it can be possible.
So internal
but
market?
We need pragmatic choices.
Internal market, other urgency measures?
Well, the internal market, that's top priority, certainly on energy investments in the grid to create that internal market in Europe. And I also think that the opportunity I talked about, the rest of the world looking at us for rules-based trade, we need to engage in free trade agreements. It is, for me, I'm ashamed as Belgian Prime Minister that Belgium still is unable to support full-heartedly the Mercosur agreement. This is really shameful. When are we going to do it? Now that Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, they were all mentioned, the ASEAN countries, India, they're all looking at the two empires, and they're all thinking the same. We don't want to live under the boot of Xi Jinping. We don't want to live under the boot of Trump, that every day can sign an executive order, 25%, 30%, 100% tariffs, comply or die. We want another world. Mark Carney talked about this in Davos very eloquently. If we want that world, we have to be the leader of that world. We invented that world. We are the cradle of that world.
I hear what you're saying, but even in your own majority, the parties of your own majority...
This is why I'm ashamed. I'm not ashamed about myself, you know. I'm ashamed about these other parties. I can fully understand that, of course, certain sectors are worried. But I heard exactly the same thing about CETA. I was in Canada. I thought I was smart. I was still the happy mayor of Antwerp, a job I really loved. And I was in Canada, I thought, let's be smart with the port of Antwerp. I have to say the port of Antwerp-Bruges now. It was still then the port of Antwerp.
It's a nice city, Bruges.
Well, I like it a lot. Okay. I think we should even...
Never mind.
Let's not go into that. I was in Canada the week CETA should have been ratified or should have been accepted, thinking, I'll be the first one there. I'll have a great week of business leads and promotion, and then the French-speaking socialists in my country say, we'll never ratify it. And they still haven't. We still have not ratified CETA. So you can imagine my week in Canada. I had explained, no, I'm not a lunatic. I come from a country of lunatics maybe, but I'm not a lunatic. I'm for free trade. I like CETA. The result is our trade with Canada went up with 73%. All these negative consequences that were predicted also from the agricultural side, I haven't seen them. If you have no confidence whatsoever in our own ability to compete in a global environment without subsidies, then we die. That's the choice. That's the choice to live a little bit, make even more debts, and eventually die. We have to give up on that mentality. We need to embrace free trade, but we have to, of course, have the integrated market, and we need to dare to weaponize our market as well. If we have an integrated market, we can weaponize it. I'll tell you an anecdote that makes this crystal clear. When I was the happy mayor of Antwerp, every 6 months I got the Chinese ambassador who visited me. And 12 years ago, this was still very friendly. They talk like people from the Far East. They say, our friendship is like a lotus flower. It has so many layers. It's very mysterious. We say in Europe, China is our partner, our systemic rival, and our potential enemy. That's a lot. Maybe we should choose and have a China...
That's difficult, in Europe also.
If you would come live to the house next door to me, you would ring the door and you say, I'm your new neighbor, I want to be your friend, your partner, your systemic rival, and your potential enemy, I would call the police. So you have to make a choice, and you have to have a China policy, because 10 years down the road, the same ambassador came to me and he said, well, I noticed in parliaments somebody said something very critical about China. We don't like that. It would be a shame if our trade would go to Rotterdam. I saw the layers of the lotus flower falling. And of course, we do a lot of absurd theater of us Europeans towards the United States, also towards China, pretending that we didn't hear this. And why did I pretend? Because before I say, sorry, we're a democracy, bye-bye, I have to be sure that my colleague in Rotterdam will say exactly the same thing. And that's why we can only weaponize an integrated market. But we can. And
are we strong enough to do that?
The Greenland story taught us one lesson. We don't have weapons, we don't have the iron, but we still have a little bit of gold. And if we even threaten weaponizing that gold, Trump backed down. He didn't back down because the king and I saw him. We like to believe this. We like to believe this.
Maybe it was the markets.
After we talked to each other,
and
he backed down.
Policies.
But I think the polls in America made him back down, but even more so the stock markets. And why did the stock markets go down? Because the Europeans say, here's a red line. We were lenient about the tariffs. Trump is not wrong on everything about the transatlantic trade. He has valid points. Only the way he brings them and the humiliation and the way he lays it on very thick is a bit, it's a bit much. But for the first time, we said, that's the red line. If you cross that, we'll go into a fully fledged trade war. It will be terrible for us, but it will be at least as terrible for you. And he immediately backed down.
Are you at ease now, or will Greenland come back?
At ease. As the commissioner
about
said,
that subject.
just a few days later he made comments about our veterans in Afghanistan who are so humiliating that I don't think he took it well, what happened in Greenland, and the man is full of surprises. The Board of Peace was also one of those surprises where you see this is no longer a world of multilateralism, this is a world of empires. And Europe has to become an empire, but let's become an empire like Eisenhower saw it when he gave his farewell speech. He said the world has to become a confederation where the small come with the same confidence to the table as the large. This is Europe. If we can do that, then we can win.
That's a good point. We're here to reflect upon that future of Europe, and it's not because the situation today is has so caught fire. We're doing this for 19 years. Even back when you, Mr. De Wever, you yourself were a sharp critic of Europe. Now you're... No?
I was a sharp critic of what Europe was doing. On immigration, I think Europe was foolish. We attracted the wrong kind of immigrants. We need immigrants, but we need to attract the right kind of immigrants, active immigrants that can reinforce our labor market. But our main specialty is attracting immigrants that are actually weighing on the social system, and our citizens see this, and this has fueled the extreme right. I predicted when Merkel said we're schaffen das, we will see now a surge of racism and extreme right in Europe, and it happened. Even in Germany, it happened. A country that we thought would be, for historical reasons, immune, even there it happened, it all came true. So I was against also the environmental policies, the heavy regulation of Europe, but now I see a different Europe. The wind is changing, and I'm a very pragmatic politician. If I see a level of power that I can use, I'll go full throttle. Now I see Europe that is becoming more and more shifting towards the right idea of migration, close the door. And if somebody knocks, look who it is, and then you can let him in or not. But the idea that everybody who is physically able to get into Europe is rewarded by staying there and having a ticket for life, and you're only financing that on the Mediterranean and the human traffickers, that's all we do, and we're weakening our economy. Everybody realizes this now, not everybody, almost everybody. So this is going to change. The simplification and even deregulation in Europe is now, if you look at the European table, who's talking about this? These are the big guys who are talking about this. I think it's actually going to happen. And the fact that, of course, the big German economy is not growing anymore for 2 years, they're in existential trouble, means that webbewijsfähigkeit is going to be the talk of the town at Eldenbiesen. So this gives me hope. This is what we need.
And being that sharp critic, but now, if you look at that union from within, as a prime minister, in all honesty, is the process of decision-making and the union itself, is it in better shape than you expected, or is it even worse, in all honesty?
I must say it looks a lot like Belgium, which is probably the worst thing you can say about any level of power. And also their decisions need to be made. I always listened to Charles Michel when he was president of the European Council. He always talked about the European onion. And I always thought maybe his pronunciation of English is bad. But now I realize the man is a visionary, because please allow me to explain. I think this is exactly what Europe needs to become, an onion of multi-layers. We need to enlarge. I'm very serious, we need to enlarge, but we need to stop lying. We're playing so much absurd theater. When we meet with the Trump administration, we pretend to like things that we hate, or pretend to not hear things that are actually said. When we're talking to the Chinese, we're doing actually just about the same, but in a more Far Eastern way. It's a lot less explicit and aggressive. But towards Ukraine, we're also playing absurd theater, saying, you can become a member state in 2027. Nobody believes this. Nobody believes this. But the fact that countries want to join Europe, that all our neighbors want to join Europe, is a thing you cannot neglect. So geopolitical thinking brings me to the idea we need to bring these countries on board, also the Balkan countries, because if choices need to be made in this new imperial order, it is important that we make them choose for us. If not, somewhere in the near future, they will choose for somebody else who is a lot less nice than us. So we need to enlarge. But that can only happen in the onion model with an outer layer, just like the Romans. When you were a neighbor of the Roman Empire, first you could become a socius. They had association with you. If you developed, then you became a foederatus. And eventually, you became a provincia. That's exactly what we need to do. And at the core of the onion, we need to functionally integrate much faster. And I believe that the Benelux should be, again, what it historically was, an example.
The core of the onion.
We should be the core of the onion. And we did it before. We were Schengen before Schengen existed. Europe joined the Benelux in Schengen. And now I see so many possibilities if we would integrate our labor market, if we would integrate our education, if we would integrate our logistics center, we could become a giant. I talked about, but I know that the Flemish Minister of the Ports will hate me now. She already hates my guts, because I said it at Davos, and she said, don't say it, we'll get in trouble with Europe. You're talking about the monopoly. Totally outdated way of thinking. We need to merge the port of Antwerp-Bruges with the port of Rotterdam. And I'll tell you why. Because the shipping companies have consolidated. There are only 4 big guys left. And we're 2 dwarfs. In their eyes, we're 2 dwarfs. If we would combine those 2 boards, we have the logistical power. And Europe has always said, don't do this, because we have thought inwards. This could be a disadvantage for the clients of the ports in Europe. We need to start thinking outwards. Outwards, from the core of the onion to the world.
Well, I think Mr. van der Meren is in the room, so he has heard the message.
You should have said that before. I know he agrees with me, but he also got very angry WhatsApps. Jacques, if you're in the room, you probably also got some very angry WhatsApps. And then, of course, Jacques, what does he reply? Oh, I just said what the Prime Minister said at Davos. You cowards!
Okay, we're running towards the end, but before we let you go, next week you celebrate or not, I don't know if there's a celebration, but there's 1 year of government. You were talking about we pretend to like things that we hate, or maybe it's the other way around. This one I want to ask in Dutch. Doet u uw premierschap al met een beetje meer goesting?
What a strange language. What did you say? I find this very peculiar. We're in Belgium, we have 3 national languages, so we all speak English. And at the European level, I see the same. A few months ago, we invited Keir Starmer, the English Prime Minister, to the European table. It was the first time after Brexit that a British leader came to the European table. And we had a conversation, and all of a sudden, the Swedish Prime Minister took the floor saying, Keir, don't you notice anything strange? And he said, no, what? You've left 5 years ago and we're still speaking English. And Macron was sitting 2 seats to the left of me, and I heard him whisper, "Oui, ça c'est vrai, ça, oui, ça c'est vrai." So maybe it's unavoidable, but I do want to say that I deplore if I see the next generation, the generation of my children, they truly are convinced that English is the only other language that exists. Yes. And we are getting disconnected from a cultural riches, is the enormous French culture to the south of us.
But actually my question
that's a pity.
Was not about English, it was
I
about
wanted to avoid your
government.
Question. I'm looking at the clock and I'm playing for time now.
Yeah, but in all honesty, a small balance of that 1 year, because you said when you were at the start of it, well, I will do it, but I don't like it, I won't like it, but I will do it.
Well, it was and more. Now, I had a great job when I became mayor of Antwerp. In Flanders, it was the city with the most debts of all cities, and now we are debt-free. After 12 years, we had a surplus every year in our budget. I made reforms, budget cuts. I had withstood manifestations and protests, and I was there. And I was elected for a 3rd term. Can you imagine the idea? Oh, a 3rd term. And then they said, maybe you should do the same thing at the Belgian level. It's quite a challenge. Our national debt is way too high. Are you heading for a 3rd term? Our expenditure is way too high. Our social spending is too high. People all think change is necessary, but nobody wants to change. We have no buffers. And any circumstance that could, you have to, sometimes you could be lucky with geopolitical and macroeconomical circumstances, but I think I'm extremely unlucky. So if you add that all up, it's quite a challenge. We're still Belgium, means 5 political parties in a coalition, which means that, as they say in our language, every agreement I make, I think of a horse and I leave with a camel. I think for the first year, the most camels we produced are actually running in the right direction, which is already something. But I'm fully aware that we will not get across the desert with the camels that we have sent out. I hope they can reach an oasis and that we can gather our strengths and maybe make new camels to do the rest of the road. But it is not an easy job. This I can tell you. Do you enjoy it? At a personal level, I must admit that I do enjoy it. And I underestimated the European politics, I must say. I always thought we were a small country, we're not so significant and we're in bad shape, so who will listen to poor little Belgium? But there, of course, our cultural richness, that we are at the border between oil and beer, between beer and wine, and between oil and butter, gives us an advantage. We speak German, we speak French, but more than speaking the languages, we understand the way of thinking. So for matchmaking at the European level, you have an edge. And I kind of managed to use that in
and
certain...
even to enjoy it a little bit.
Well, the Euroclear matter, I quite enjoyed playing the game. And I even enjoyed more so winning the game. But bisse vincit, qui se vincit in Victoria, it's not if you win as a small guy, it's better not to talk about it.
If it's not coming back. Well, we did enjoy that you shared your thoughts so openly with us. Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and ladies and gentlemen. Give him a big round of applause. Thank you.